And sorry for we're a little bit thin on the ground, which makes me just a little bit grumpy actually. So I do apologise to those of you who are here that you're not as well supported as you could be. But we do have people, and I particularly just want to acknowledge Councillor Christine Fletcher, who is, Chris is going through some quite challenging times at the moment, so apologies from Chris and from Councillor Quacks in particular, and we wish them both well. Councillor Lee for absence, Councillor Sayers and Stewart, Councillor Bartley, Collins, Darby and Clode for lateness. Okay, and we just also acknowledge that our Mayor and Deputy Mayor will be going to the opening of the wonderful Ockham Daisy development, which is just extraordinary, and they will pass on our love and aroha to the wonderful Ockham team. So I'll move all those. If someone would like to second that.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Councillor Hills. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. And we'll move on to...
Oh, you're here, Wayne. You're right.
You're so
and
sharp,
always making an
Councillor
entrance.
Cooper.
So are you. Making sure.
I know. This is going to be a quick, cheerful and
Just a
happy
double-edged
meeting.
expression.
Declarations of interest. None? Or if they come up, let me know. Confirmation of minutes. I'll move the minutes of the 20th of February. Councillor Philip Aina will second. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
It's carried. No petitions. Public input. Just noting, we did have one public input requested, which I declined, and it was from Diane O'Connor from the New Zealand Cat Coalition regarding our proposed treatment of cats.
From the New Zealand which?
You may have had an email or two about those, but we've asked Diane, and I hope she understands, to come and talk to us as part of our regional pest strategy consultation, because that's where the issue fits, and she'll be most welcome to talk to us as part of that. No local board input or requests, no extraordinary business, no notices of motion, and so we move straight to item 9, to the designated strategy update. And warm welcome to Steve Armitage from AT. Lovely to see you, Steve.
Good morning and thank you for having me. I'm delighted to provide an update on where we have managed to get to around the development of the Destination Auckland strategy. You'll recall that we had a workshop back in November with this committee to basically help us to establish a research base and to ask your views on the future of Auckland as a destination. So this morning is a chance to report back on that discovery phase, what we've learnt through that, and how the strategy is actually coming together ahead of it being finalised for a public launch. The context for this is that ATEED is basically 7 years in and had developed an Auckland visitor plan and major events strategy as two of its founding documents. The aspirations in those documents were considered to be quite bold and visionary at the time, but have been achieved well ahead of time on the back of a very successful visitor economy. The visitor economy certainly has a great story to tell, and the sector is thriving primarily as a result of the growing visitor numbers and increasing spend in what is a highly competitive international market. But what we see is an opportunity to do things even better if the endeavours of all those associated with the visitor economy are brought together around a unifying purpose. The Destination Auckland 2025 strategy is a unifying strategy for Auckland's visitor industry that provides direction, leadership, guardianship and a vision for the city, both as a standalone destination and as the primary gateway to New Zealand. It's important to emphasise that it's not Auckland's strategy. It's Auckland's strategy, it's not ATEED's strategy. The strategy sets the course for the visitor industry for the next 7 years, providing key leadership in a sector that is also a major employer in our region. It outlines how the visitor industry will grow sustainably, creating new and globally relevant jobs and employment, and ultimately greater economic prosperity for Auckland's residents. Many of the issues the strategy identifies have been present for quite some time and have been debated around this table for many years. The primary challenge now, however, is that with such strong visitor growth achieved over the last few years into New Zealand generally and Auckland specifically, we need to do a better job of coordinating our collective efforts to ensure we avoid a scenario where the visit economy potentially starts to slow or to retreat. This is the first destination strategy in New Zealand to address both destination management and destination marketing in a collaborative and strategic way, with a long-term commitment from leaders in both the public and private sector. It's very hard for you to read on this slide, but this is a visual depiction of the consultation that we undertook, the key groups that we consulted with, a research process that included Auckland residents, visitors, mana whenua, a broad sector group from across the tourism industry, yourselves and local boards, council-controlled organisations and other central government agencies. Key to developing the strategy has been an industry leaders group that we assembled. We invited Martin Snedden to chair the group, and that has had very senior representation from Tourism New Zealand, MB, Auckland Airport, Tourism Industry Aotearoa, Intercity, Air New Zealand, New Zealand Māori Tourism, Accor Hotels, Cruise New Zealand, Education New Zealand, Sky City, Sir Rob Fenwick and Sir Peter Sharples. It covers every aspect of what we consider to be relevant to Destination Auckland, and encompasses ATEED's primary activities in tourism, major events, business events and international education, as well as brand and marketing. In recent times, that group, who have met on three occasions, have been joined by Stephen Town and by representation from Auckland Transport. And that is because it's become very clear to us that it's important that all of Council, the Council family, understands the role that they play in supporting the visitor economy and how interconnected the roles that we play across the city are. Auckland aspires to be a world-class city, a special place to live, work and visit. We're doing pretty well. The Mercer Resource Consultants consider Auckland to be the third highest quality of living city in the world. But just like every other city, we face major challenges. The Mayor has set out a vision for Auckland to be a city that cares for the environment, is prosperous and inclusive, celebrates its unique Māori culture as well as its diversity, and solves the challenges of population growth, especially transport, housing and other infrastructure. The challenge globally is sustainability. The United Nations defines sustainable development as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs, and has adopted 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainability, making our city an even better place to live, work and visit, depends on us all playing our part, and the strategy that we are shortly to deliver is a contribution from those of us who have a particular focus on the sustainability of Auckland as a great place to visit. It is the outcome of a sector-wide process initiated and led by ATEED. Cities are ecosystems, ever-changing interactions of people and place. It often suits us to classify these interactions, to discuss, for example, the education sector, the retail sector, the visitor economy. But in reality, everything is connected and indivisible. A national student is equally a visitor and a shopper. Wellingtonians in Auckland on business occupy cars on our motorways before taking clients to lunch in the Viaduct or enjoying a concert at the Spark Arena in the evening. Because of this connectedness, the only way that we can ensure the sustainability of any particular subsystem of our city is by adopting a holistic approach. If planned and managed well, the Executive Director of UN Habitat said recently, cities can be the main tool for sustainable development and a solution to many of the challenges our planet is facing today. We still want the benefits that visitors bring to our city, and there is absolutely still a key role for destination marketing, but we need to more actively address the unintended consequences of the visitation we receive, and that requires a better destination management approach. Destination management is the coordinated management of all elements of a destination in order to promote inclusive and sustainable economic growth, social inclusiveness, employment and poverty reduction, resource efficiency, environmental protection and a response to climate change, cultural values, diversity and heritage, mutual understanding. If done successfully, we need dialogue across the private sector, public sector and other key stakeholders who previously may not have considered that their decisions have implications on the sustainability of Auckland as a destination. It's important to emphasise that destination marketing remains important. Marketing campaigns provide not only visitation but also improve public perceptions of a destination as a place to live and work. Cities who do not invest in this activity run the risk of being left behind the competition. The destination strategy outlines six visions, effectively, for how Auckland can continue to be a great place to live, work and visit. First of all, a unique city. By 2025, we want Auckland to have a unique identity that resonates with residents and visitors alike. Where we're from matters. As we describe the place we live and why we choose to live there, we're really making a statement about our identity, who we are and what is important to us. This means that we need to develop a destination narrative, articulating what defines Auckland and makes it our special place. This is as important for residents as it is for our visitors. Our story will influence our choices, what we as citizens treasure and what we as a city preserve, encourage and invest in. Our story will frame the way we present ourselves to the rest of the world and also determine the interest others will have in coming to visit. We want Auckland to be an interesting city. By 2025, Auckland's visitors will be staying longer and locals will love their city more. Central to the destination management paradigm is the belief that if we create a place that people want to visit, then we will also be creating a place where people want to live. The two should not be at odds. The industry jargon is that we need to target value, not volume. But we are a small country. We need to be attracting more discerning visitors and encouraging them to stay longer. The clearer we are, therefore, about what makes Auckland our special place, and investing more time in the type of product that we want to develop and how that represents who we are as people, the more likely it is that we will develop a city in a way that enriches the lives of Aucklanders while making our city an even more appealing place to visit. We want Auckland to be an environmentally sustainable city. By 2025, we want Auckland to be recognised as a world-leading city for environmental action. Climate change and environmental degradation are perhaps the biggest threats to Auckland. The Ministry for the Environment says climate change means Auckland can expect more intense storm events, heavy rainfall and coastal inundation. The Hauraki Gulf Forum reports that the efforts to improve the Gulf habitat are being outstripped by the pace of change. Auckland's appeal as a great place to live, work and visit is based on our natural environment. What we now realise is that we can no longer take that environment for granted. It is more than ours to enjoy. It is ours to take care of. The threat can be an opportunity to be seen as a world-leading driver for change. Auckland needs to be a better connected city. There's almost universal agreement that Auckland cannot truly claim to be a great place to live, work and visit until it is a city that is easier to get around. As Auckland Transport Chairman Dr Lester Levy acknowledges, congestion is choking the Auckland region socially, environmentally and economically. Overcoming congestion will liberate Auckland's economy and elevate the well-being and lifestyle of Aucklanders and visitors to our city. Auckland needs to be a skilled city. By 2025, we want more of Auckland's young men and women to be choosing careers in the visitor economy. The 8th of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is decent work and economic growth. Unemployment in New Zealand is now below 5%, an 8-year low, but that figure is somewhat misleading because it doesn't include those who are no longer actively looking for work. On the flip side, employers in the visitor economy are struggling to recruit people who can provide a quality customer experience. Auckland will be a better place to live, work and visit if we can find ways to equip more young people with the skills and attitude that they need to move ahead.
I was going to give you.
And finally, we want Auckland to be an insightful city. By 2025, Auckland will make more informed decisions about the management of its visitor economy. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it, so the saying goes. To sustainably manage Destination Auckland and ensure that it remains a great place to live, work and visit, we need a better understanding of the issues and the insight to make better decisions. As TIA Chief Executive Chris Roberts says, we have various types of data, analysis and strategic research, both government and private sector generated. How this information is interpreted, packaged and made available is crucial, as information is only insightful when it generates knowledge to support tourism decision making. I've outlined there are the key areas of focus that the visitor industry and broader group of stakeholders have told us they want to focus on in order to advance Destination Auckland. ATEED's role in supporting that is that we're the guardian and driver of the strategy. Specifically, we want to lead and partner in destination marketing activity. ATEED has an ongoing role to lead the development of destination marketing and to attract major and business events in partnership with a range of organisations. If we did not effectively deliver on this, there would be significant market failure. Industry operators do not have a mandate or a desire to perform a broader destination marketing role beyond where their business opportunities lie. However, the visitor industry has indicated a strong desire to work with ATEED to deliver a concise Auckland destination story, to create value and grow the reputation of Auckland as a destination. Secondly, ATEED's role will be to advocate for and to coordinate destination management activity. This is a complex task for ATEED to take on, as we do not hold visitor-related assets or supporting infrastructure. It relies on government agencies, the Council and other CCOs to achieve the destination management outcomes which have been identified. These include working across the industry to advocate for higher standards of sustainable practice, improving the working relationship with Auckland Transport and Panuku Development Auckland to advocate for more visitor-friendly wayfinding, working more closely with Māori tourism operators and other key stakeholders to introduce a capability program and lift awareness of Māori tourism as an important component of Auckland's unique destination proposition, and helping to coordinate activity across agencies and tourism cluster groups to increase regional dispersal and to spread economic and social benefits across the entire Auckland region, as well as support the development of new product. Our Chief Executive, Nick Hill, has been articulating in recent weeks how the new ATEED model is coming together, and work on an ATEED corporate strategy is pretty well advanced. The Destination Auckland strategy sits immediately underneath that and is what I've taken you through today. What my management team are now working on is the specific plans that sit underneath this that outline on an annual basis what ATEED's activity will be across major events, business events, tourism and international education. Those plans will be ready within the next few weeks and will provide not just Council but the broader sector with clear insight and transparency into what we're doing and how we're spending the money, which is particularly relevant given the change to our funding model due to the introduction of the accommodation provider targeted rate. So this has been an update on where we've got to since we sat down with you to glean your sense of where the destination was heading. I think it's really important to emphasise how collaborative this approach has been and how invested the industry leaders group and broader sector are in what we're doing. There is keen interest in this, both within Auckland but also in Wellington, for the reasons I outlined at the beginning. It's the first strategy that combines both destination marketing and destination management. There is also interest at a ministerial level when we're currently working through the possibility of having Kelvin Davis attend, the Minister of Tourism attend our next industry leaders group next week. So hopefully that provides you with pretty good insight, but I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. I should just add that the strategy is due to go to our board for sign-off on the 23rd of March. And at that point in time, I would propose to circulate that to the councillors so that you can have a more detailed look at it before we move to finalise it. Thank you.
A thorough presentation. Questions? Councillor Walker.
Sure. Hi, Steve. Good report. You mentioned this is the first time that we've had destination marketing and management. Has the government done this, or are we kind of one step ahead around that in terms of the combination? And when I say government, I just mean not necessarily the government, but New Zealand at large.
It's an issue which is getting much greater prominence across the country. Tourism industry, Aotearoa, has just in the last few months announced what they consider to be a benchmark for sustainable tourism practice. We think that is a good start, but we have higher ambition, and in fact we propose that we would be setting a much higher standard in terms of sustainability across Auckland off the back of delivering this strategy. But it is an issue. This destination management is being picked up by others, but we're probably just slightly ahead of the curve.
So, just a follow-up question, Madam Chair, is it conceivable that what we're putting together could act as somewhat of a template for elsewhere around New Zealand and the country at large? Yes,
certainly. The presentation that we provided to the TIA board, to Tourism New Zealand, and to other regional tourism organisations who have an interest in it, is that they very much see this as an opportunity to pick up our learnings and pick up our document and make it applicable to their particular area.
So I guess just another follow-up question, is there any likelihood of us getting some financial support from the government or from other quarters around this because of its significance?
I think that getting the strategy finalised and then understanding the clear roles that everybody within the visitor economy needs to play has the potential to unlock additional funding, but I wouldn't want to presume or put a number on what that could possibly be.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Casey.
Oh, hi, Steve. Thanks for that. I've got a couple of questions. My first one is, every time you said the word city, I thought about it, because you had a slide where you talked about a unique city, interesting city. I'm from Auckland City, former Auckland City, and I relate to living in Auckland City, but I wonder if people in Manukau and Franklin and Rodney accept the word city for the whole region. So I think the destination, or the Auckland-wide destination strategy is good, but it's a region, not a city. So you're using that word region, well, you're using the word city to mean the region, and it doesn't work for me.
You'll look at the language in terms of how we position it depending on the audience. So certainly for an international audience, they look at Auckland as a city more so than a region. But given that this is a document that's primarily Auckland facing, and there will be a shortened version of this that will be made more publicly available, the full strategy will be available on our website for those who really want to go through it. I'll take a look at that language. I accept the point that, yeah, we need to promote the region.
Just another couple of wee things. The process for signing, well, we haven't seen a strategy, we've seen your presentation. So you've got the strategy in draft, it goes to your board for approval. Do we get to see it after that, or to have input into it, or do you sign it off and that's it, finished?
I'm proposing to circulate that at the same time it goes to our board and invite some comment back from councillors who will then have an opportunity to look at it in a bit more detail. Obviously I've gone over it in a highlighted way today, but I would invite comment back before we move to finalise it. The intent is that we would have the strategy signed off by early next month ahead of a public launch.
And my final, well, I've got two tiny ones. A city for the arts. I don't know how, because I haven't seen a strategy. I don't know where that fits, but I want to know. I was having a look at the people you consulted with, and I was wondering about both the South and the arts as a specific area requiring promotion.
So the South is absolutely a key area of focus for ATEED in general, and the development of tourism product consistent with what Auckland Airport's plans are doing, and some of the programs they are running is very important to us. There's a lot of untapped talent out there, and we want to do more in that space. In relation to the arts, it'll be better for you to look at the full strategy. The arts are quite prominent in there, certainly in terms of the type of major event activity that we want to continue, that we want to bring into Auckland. We don't feel that the balance has been particularly right. It has certainly favoured sport over culture and arts. So we're looking to bring a better balance into that, and that'll also help us to address some of the issues we've had around seasonality, because most of the sporting activity takes place right in the middle of peak tourism period. We believe arts, a stronger focus on arts and culture, will allow us to bring more event properties into the shoulder and winter periods.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got Councillor Newman, Darby, Member Blair, Hills and Philippaina.
Yeah, a couple of questions from me. You referred to attracting discerning visitors who want to stay longer. Where will we find these visitors? Where are they?
It's about being a bit more targeted in the type of marketing activity that we undertake. We've tended to be quite traditional in our approach, using broad channels to market. We need to be using the latest digital channels to be able to connect to those people who have a greater interest in the type of offer that Auckland provides. So that's using data from the likes of MasterCard, who are prepared to let us know about how people are tracking across Auckland, what they're doing, and using their channels to market. We think that there are a lot of people out there, high-value tourists, who haven't had a chance to visit Auckland as yet because they don't understand the offering here. Because traditionally we've used the likes of a flight centre, and we've just gone broadly out to Australia to promote Auckland in a very generic sense. If we can be more specific and targeted in the types of people that we're wanting to attract using different channels, then it enables us to attract higher value tourists into Auckland.
See, it seems, I kind of feel like the most obvious market would be Australia. And people from the eastern seaboard have never been to the Shaky Isles of New Zealand, would just come over here, something different and quite relatively affordable. But when they arrive here, they're probably not going to stay around in Auckland. So I'm just wondering, is there a different cohort of people out there for whom we're in their budget? Yes, we've got people from Asia, but they will get off the plane and they get on the bus and be taken down to Rotorua and fly off to Queenstown or what have you. So what is this new group you're talking about? I'm just not quite sure who they are. I'm not an expert in this, so I'm reliant on you.
There's two aspects to that. One is a traditional, I guess, conflict we've had with Tourism New Zealand, who have not promoted Auckland as a destination in its own right. They've tended to promote Rotorua and Queenstown. People don't have a deeper understanding, international visitors don't tend to have a deep understanding of what the product offer is in Auckland and the type of experience you can have here. Having Tourism New Zealand around the table as part of our industry leaders group, we believe has been critical to getting them to understand the importance of promoting Auckland and getting people to stay longer and obviously spending more. You're right about Australia, we need to continue to market there, but for places like China and the US, we need a more tailored and targeted marketing approach. The one-size-fits-all doesn't work there. So we have networks like Virtuoso, which is probably one of the most elite tourism networks in the world, who we are a member of, and we can utilise their channels to connect to extremely high net worth individuals who haven't been to Auckland before. They're considered to be key influencers and also influence the people around them about where the hot destinations are and where they might like to travel. So by being more targeted and I guess specific about the type of channels that we can access, we feel that we can bring in a different audience that hasn't come into Auckland previously.
What's the point of difference for the Auckland offering compared to other cities, say on the eastern seaboard of Australia? If you have a high net worth person from Asia or from North America, it seems to me the big standout would be our environment and our Māori heritage. So how do we pick up? Where's the Māori focus here that sends them to New Zealand rather than going to Melbourne?
I'll just give Steve a moment to think, and I'll just, I guess, use the opportunity to pick up on what we touched on yesterday. We have had criticism of ATEED for hosting a variety of high worth individuals at the tennis. The evening that I hosted, along with ATEED, we actually had Brisbane Tourism there having exactly that discussion. How do we bring people into that area, and then how do we flick them on and bring them to Australia, the high worth individuals who are actually going to stay here longer and spend more money, and that's exactly the work that ATEED's doing. Just thought I'd get that in by a bit of advocacy. Steve, back to you.
We believe that our Māori identity and culture and who we are as people is the key point of difference. So if I use an example, we had the head of the Virtuoso Travel Network come into Auckland late last year, and he was only on the ground in Auckland for 24 hours. We took him over to Watatapu to do a Kiwi release with Doc. He took his family over. That experience and how moved he was by it will stay with me for a very long time, because it's something that you can't do anywhere else in the world. It's a connection to this place that he will retain for a long, long time. You could see the emotional component of being involved in doing something like that. Obviously, we can't create those type of experiences for everyone, but for somebody like that who will go back to the network and then talk about what he's experienced in New Zealand, and more broadly the food and beverage product, the beauty of the landscape, and our cultural offering, has a huge influence on what people choose to do and where they choose to visit.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Darby.
Maybe in the interest of time, I might just pose a few things, and then Steve, you just consider these things. And thank you for this good progress, and thanks for the opportunity to contribute to it along the way. I probably just want to stress the importance of the culturally alive city, and that's culturally, of course, reflecting the diversity, starting with Māori, and then the many others, and then the artistic underpin of culture as well, which leads me to a skilled and creative city. If you don't have a creative culture, you actually won't get skills. And many cities have looked at that one, but I think you understand that. In terms of sustainability, I think there is a wider sustainability than environmental sustainability. There's social sustainability, and I can help but think of cities like Barcelona, where they've had uprisings against tourism. So if you don't get that balance right and make your tourism plans sustainable, it does stress the people that live here. That's my contribution, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Huge topic of the moment. Member Blair.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and kia ora, Steve. Just in terms of major events, the major event space, just got a couple of questions and one for Māori as well. So, are you targeting specific events so people travel to New Zealand to see this event and therefore increase our local economy? Or is it building a major event to take from the existing economy, if you like?
The answer to that is both. We are certainly wanting to place a much greater emphasis on events that help us to tell the Auckland story. There's no sense, why would we invest in an event that doesn't add to that or doesn't help to articulate who we are? So certainly with the events that we currently have and that we consider as staples within our portfolio, we want to leverage those better to tell the Auckland story. There will always be one-off opportunities to bring significant, if you like, mega events into Auckland, and we will obviously want to consider those on a come as they like basis. But we need to be a little bit more prudent in terms of how we're investing our money in that event space. Continue to leverage the relationship with New Zealand major events at central government, who've always looked to us to take a lead in the type of events that Auckland can attract and can obviously cater to from a logistical point of view. But we're definitely wanting to place a stronger emphasis on developing our own product, because that's the best way to create economic return rather than buying events in all the time.
Yes, so probably the most successful ones have been the Lions Tour and Rugby World Cup, or, you know, in terms of visitor numbers, new money coming in, are there any in your sights in the next 4 to 5 years that you've got in your target?
Obviously, the America's Cup is a big opportunity. We're very interested to see how that progresses over the next few weeks, obviously. There are other event properties that we're currently considering. We believe that there is an opportunity for us to be focused on, specifically on women's sport internationally. We think there isn't a city out there that is currently taking a lead in that space, and there are a number of event properties that are in the market at the moment, which we're actively targeting there.
Okay. And just how successful, what were the key themes that emerged from your discussions with iwi or mana whenua with regard to Destination Auckland? Because I note that, you know, we're a unique city, an interesting city, a connected city, skilled city, insightful city, but where's the culture?
The culture is right throughout the strategy document and is highlighted significantly. I have a huge bunch of information which I'm happy to make available for people who would like to go through it. I do have a distillation of the specific Māori feedback, but I don't have it with me, but I'll be happy to share it with you, Ren.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hills.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I think the difficult thing with the kind of high-level summary brought to us, because I've asked for some of the information over, you know, a month ago, I've seen actually some of the great stuff that is going to be included in the strategy, and I was really excited about the Māori focus, and it's probably a bit of a shame it's not included in this presentation, but it will come to all of us, obviously. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to see a bit of that, and I was pleasantly surprised. I think this is a good step up and a step forward, and very clear what you guys are aiming for. Not that it hasn't been clear before, but it just seems more, you know, segmented. What about, how are you going to get the tourism sector either on board or partnering with you, or are you getting, you know, how are you getting them connected with, I mean, I know you've done a lot of consultation, but what is sort of the idea going forward around that?
So the industry leaders group that we've assembled and that the membership I referred to earlier, in the front of the strategy is a page which is their collective commitment. They're all signing in a visible demonstration their commitment to what is outlined and committing to embedding elements of the strategy into their own strategic documentation. We've talked also about what sort of form the public launch will take, and all of the members of that leaders group want to be visibly present. That we've asked if the Mayor would lead that presentation. He's indicated that he's comfortable to do that, with strong support from the sector there, the industry leaders across Auckland and New Zealand. So we think, in terms of a starting point, that provides us with a position that we haven't had before. When we've just tested, we've put something out into the marketplace and have hoped that it would be received. This has been a very different approach by building a strategy with our key stakeholders right at the very core, in fact, guiding the process. So I believe that stands us in good stead for the long term.
And just another question really. So in the past, and this is why I think the work you guys have done is so important, Tourism New Zealand has not included Auckland. Even their most recent video that goes to the world, I guess, didn't even include, I think, maybe one picture of the Waitakiris or something, but very little of Auckland. It's just Queenstown, Rotorua and other parts of the country. Have you seen any change in focus this year with them wanting to support our work more or celebrate Auckland, so there's more of a partnership?
They clearly understand our point of view, but Tourism New Zealand are obviously influenced by the government of the day and what their priorities are, and regional economic development and regional dispersal remain key focus areas. So it's a difficult position for Tourism New Zealand to try to promote Auckland, because it would be inconsistent with central government's priority, I suppose. but there is a keen awareness that they need to do more. So how we find a balance between their regional focus and bringing Auckland into the picture is something we're going to be focused on over the next year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hills. Councillor Filipaina.
Thank you, Chair. Lord Steve, look, I just wanted to the question is, obviously, where's the Pacific side of things as well? As the largest Pacific island, for want of a better term, that's question one. Do you want me to ask the questions straight away and then you can list them all?
So alongside our Māori culture, our Pacific culture is also recognised in the strategy, and the fact that we need to bring more of that identity to the forefront, and that's certainly true of our event properties and the arts and culture focus that the strategy outlines.
Okay. And on your consultation on the PowerPoint, that particular slide, has there been any other interest apart from what you've got? Because there was something last week. Has there been any interest from other organisations that are willing and waiting to jump on board the journey that we are all on? And I'll be interested in some of the comments that you have received.
Yes, there is. There's keen interest in this, as I outlined. Certainly, relevant central government agencies are taking a keen interest in how this is landing and the direction that it's setting, and how that can be applied more broadly across New Zealand. We had a stakeholder event with major event operators last week, just to take them through the strategy at a high level. There was, I think, universal acceptance that this is the right thing for us to do. In fact, they're very keen for us to get cracking with it. So it's important that we work our way through the formal sign-off process, but I'm particularly excited about the direction this provides for the sector, but also the repositioning that it is required within AT to enable us to deliver on our role.
And Chair, just one comment, if that's okay. The fact that it's not AT's or Auckland Council strategy, but it's Auckland's work is good, because obviously with the consultation we're going through with the Auckland plan, that's been echoed by myself and other councillors that we've gone to have your say events, because it's Auckland's plan, it's not Auckland Council. So, ngā mihi. Thank you.
Kia ora, Councillor. Member Brown.
Thanks, Steve. And I was actually there the day Virtuoso came out to Motutapu, and I recall Matthew, the owner, bursting out in tears when he realised the Kiwi's name was named after his CEO, that had actually perished, passed away previous to Virtuoso's arrival in New Zealand. Last night I hosted UCLA alumni travel club who are just staying at Crown Plaza. The reasons they come are vast and varied. I'm keen to understand, and maybe it's in the detail, how we can locate, say, KPIs around how the strategy and the marketing thrust goes. And if I were, how would we address, say, the 9% drop of the Chinese arrivals in the last financial year? Can we do, is that easy to locate?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we publish monthly visitor statistics, and the drop in visitation out of China has been noted. It has been offset by increased visitation out of some of our other key markets.
public, especially in communities where there's toilet paper and other nasty things being spread around. Is there any kind of strategy for educating visitors when they come in, or who are we working with? I mean, it's a cross-council thing, I know, but we can't ignore that that's quite a lot of the visitors that do come, though they're not high value, seem to want to have everything for free.
Yes, no, it's certainly an area that's been identified for attention, and as you say, it's a cross-council responsibility. How we front into that. That goes even for things like how we present Queen Street on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's pretty gross, isn't it?
And I know that that's an issue that's also been discussed here on a number of occasions, but a more coordinated effort across the council around ensuring that for the prime daylight hours that the streetscape is in the best possible shape that it can be. Yeah, how we protect the outer region is a discussion that needs to be had, and Stephen Town has been included in those conversations around how we better align council's activity in that space with what's outlined in the strategy.
Yeah, because we can't really promote an area, then people go there, and especially the high value people, and then they see some pretty ghastly sights. So yeah, that's great to hear. I'm glad that Stephen, it's good that you've got Stephen on that board. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well that's a useful place to end that, which is we can concentrate on the big high-level complex issues, but we also need to deal with the basic housekeeping issues as well. Thank you. No other comments? I'll move that we receive the report. Seconded by, give Councillor Cooper a chance. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.
Excellent work. Right, let's move on to item 10, the reserve revocation report for Beards Road in Otara. Welcome, team. Thank you. Reasonably straightforward, I think. Now.
Chair, this is a recommendation to approve the request, forwarding of a request to the Minister of Conservation to uplift the status of reserve on 129R Beards Road, Otara, otherwise known as the Kew Lane grounds.
Okay. Shall we just take the report as read? I know there's been a lot of discussion, and just ask questions if people have questions or comments by those in the know. Councillor Philip Aina.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question in regards to the report, and that is with Ngāti Te Ata. So the options, and I've read the attached in the letter. So the options available to them are obviously when it goes out to the market or whatever we end up doing, they have, as everybody else has, the right to purchase it. And am I correct in saying that?
That is correct, yes, but we, as part of our engagement process with Mana Whenua, we give Mana Whenua groups advance notice, so we write to them in advance of the property going onto the market.
Yeah, so the question is yes. They have the right as everybody else. It's not as first right of refusal.
No, not first right of refusal.
No. Okay, Chair. Yeah. Okay.
Happy?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Councillor Collins.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just wondering if you've had any further communication with the Otara Business Association. I note that their objection still stands to the degree that they manage or assist in managing that car park area at the moment. Have they changed their position outside of what is in the
they've
report?
not. We have engaged with the Otara Business Association and indeed the other objector, and but we have not. They have not changed their position. Their withdrawal is conditional.
Okay.
Chair, I'll move it, and I know that the Otara Papatoetoe local board have endorsed the revocation.
Second it then.
And this is why I ended up asking the question around Ngāti Te Ata, and I've read.
Cleared up.
Thank you. Yeah, I know a lot of work and a lot of discussion has gone into trying to resolve this, so thank you. Moved by Councillor Filipaina, seconded Councillor Cooper. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. I know this has been a complicated one. So that's number 10. Number 11 is revocation of 32 Harbour
move
View.
that, Madam
You
Chair.
happy to move, Councillor Cooper? Anyone happy to second that? I'm happy to
I
second
just
that.
comment on it, Madam
Yep.
Chair, and the reason I'm happy to move it is because we had already resolved to revoke and dispose of this in Waitakere City Council days, and it just kind of, like a few of the things, just dropped down the hole on amalgamation. So, and the local board support it. It's actually a really lovely residential area, so I think we'll get good money for that, and 2 nice houses can be built on it, or something like that. So, yeah, thank
At
you.
the moment, it's just a little triangle that we mow. Doesn't-
Yes,
I've
there
never seen
was
it
one
being mowed.
suggestion though, Madam Chair, at the time from the Henderson Community Board, whether this is possible, that a little strip be put there on the corner for people to sit on, because it's a fair long walk from the shops right along Beach Road, and there is a retirement village just up the road, which I've just asked to have a whole lot of footpath fixed, because the little mobility scooters are tripping up on it. But yeah, so if that was a possibility, you know, I mean, it might not work in terms of the best and highest use of the land, but if that is a possibility to have a little something like that, it may not, but that's just a thought for you to take away.
With the road corridor returning to council, we may be able to look at that on our boom.
Yeah, there isn't a boom there, Madam Chair. The boom's on the other
Further-
side.
There is.
But anyway.
People could walk around the corner.
They could.
Okay, Westy
Yep,
discussion.
that's all I
We'll-
need to say. Thank you.
No one else got a passionate view on that? No? I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Thank you both. Appreciate the work on that. 12 is our... Oh, sorry, which one did you... Oh, right. Yeah. Mace, did you want to just mention the enterprise booking, very excitingly named enterprise booking memo, which I know everyone has read in depth? There will be a test. No, I'm just kidding. Do you want to just touch on it, Mace? Because it's one of those things that it's quite good to draw people's attention to, and they can talk to you about it. Do you want to
Certainly,
just...
thank you, Madam Chair, members. The enterprise booking system has been
Excuse me, boys. Can we just have a bit... Honestly, well, just, you know, there's a point at which we should just break up the bad kids on the...
It's these two, Madam
It is,
Chair.
I know. It's always him.
We could send each of them to a corner, Madam Chair.
I know. Oh, don't tempt me. Sorry.
So the
Max,
first question
back to
for
you.
the boys is... Oh, no.
Sorry, mate.
Have they even read... Which memo are we talking about, Deputy Mayor? That you've...
Item 12.
So, Madam Chair,
Back to you, Mace.
the enterprise booking system has been a project to shift to customer demand of having more online accessibility into the services we provide, and in particular camping in batches and bookable sites on regional parks, but also on sports fields, and I think most importantly an integrated approach to event booking locations across the family, including ATEED, Screen Auckland, Panuku, arts, community and events, and parks. So providing people easy access to the services that council provide. Just to give an idea of the breadth, regional parks will open access to 23 batches, 4 lodges, 24 campgrounds and 18 vehicle-based campgrounds and 27 bookable sites. So over 10,000 bookings across that portfolio of assets and services. On sports parks, now 98% of our bookings are coming through this system, and we hope to increase the number of bookings that will come through for casual use. Quite an important project for sports parks, in that as the change in demand for different codes eventuates, we now have 56% of our demand coming from football, and 28% from rugby and 16% from league in winter sports. So that's been a continuing shift. and as we bring summer bookings for sports fields online, it will enable us to get more people active their way on the sports fields that you provide for our community. So we have 840 sports fields, over 4.7 million participation events happening on those sports fields. How we program and manage that space so we make the most of our assets and get more people more active is quite important. People will still be able to go to a service centre and book if they're unable to do that online, and get assistance from the call centre if they're having trouble with their online booking. But very much a customer-led approach to how we deliver our services. Happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. We just wanted to make sure that people's attention was drawn to this, because it may pop up, and just good for people to know. Go to Mace with any questions. Councillor Cooper.
Yeah, there's something I just read in, I think it's North Harbour News last week, and it was a football team complaining about not getting as much, and I'm not complaining, I'm just saying, they weren't getting as much time as other teams, and they felt that they should be allowed more time, etc., etc. So how do we work that when we've got casual use? Because I mean, I don't think that people should just have an expectation as of right, but they're saying some sports fields seem to be able to be captured by one team and get lots of use. It might be historical. And now other teams are going, oh, we can't get much time at all, but their expectation is they get a couple of practice nights and they get a game. How are we managing that? Because I mean, when they're going to complain to the paper, it doesn't look very good, even though as a reader, I just felt like, well, you can't just expect everything on a plate when you're not even paying. But, so how do we deal with that stuff? And how come some teams and some parks seem to capture and others don't get what they like?
Madam Chair, through you, Councillor Cooper, we have for winter, capacity at currently 230,000 hours of capacity. Utilisation last winter was 190,000 hours, so there is some capacity in the system, but how it's allocated is a challenge. So the booking system is for the first time giving us greater ability to do that analysis. So in some cases, certainly sports with high demand, football over utilising the fields, which is having an impact on the asset and also the experience, as Councillor Cooper's outlining, and other sports who have some decline in their demand for winter are perhaps underutilised. So the booking system will allow us to have upfront conversations with the codes, and we've started doing that with the regional sporting organisations, rugby, football, league, and able to present data which enables that conversation to be more principled.
Just another question on, so that when you talk about the gap in utilisation, does that factor in when we can't use fields like this one was going on about the fact that it wasn't sand slit and all the rest of it, which we know is really expensive, and so they couldn't use it a lot of times? Does that factor in times when we basically close a field because it's too wet?
No, it doesn't. So there are around 29,000 hours of closed.
So you'd add that on, and then you'd go. So the actual hours available don't always reflect what's really available if we've got bad weather and we don't want to tune up our fields.
That's right.
Okay, no, that's
so. And the development program for sports fields is addressing that issue. The key area where that's a problem is in the southern part of the region.
So through you, Madam Chair, so that means that once we move through that program of upgrades, those hours available will become more real, if you know what I mean, more usable. So we won't get so much downtime.
That's correct. So we'll be able to utilise our assets a lot more.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, no, good questions, Councillor Cooper. It strikes me that it's probably useful for us, and I was just having a quick look to see if we've got a report program, but I think we do need a wider discussion on that whole issue of sports field capacity, utilisation, requirement, forward planning. I think there is I know the staff are working on this as we speak, so we will engage in that bigger discussion. Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and apologies for lateness. Through you, if I could follow Councillor Cooper with her questioning, will this enterprise booking system take into account those historic bookings? And is there ever going to be a time where those historic bookings are going to be reviewed? Because how do you start a historic booking? Thank you.
Good question.
Certainly that we're working, continue to work with the clubs and the sports codes to ensure that they still have access through their historic bookings, but over time we'll be having those conversations about what their actual utilisation was against the book time on the sports fields and freeing up more of that, the capacity of their existing network of sports fields. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, good question. Okay. Someone like to move the report be received? Member Councillor Filipaina, Councillor Kathy Casey, I'll put that. All those in favour please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Mace. And I'll move the exclusion of public. We've just got 2 acquisition issues to deal with.